Simulan mong abutin ang iyong pangarap na magbibigay dangal sa iyong bukas. Ang suliranin, hindi laging nandyan, dapat mong harapin. Kami iyong kasama sa bawat takin, magkaakbay nating lulutasin. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ang boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ikaw lagi ang bida. Ang mga aral ay ginintuang atin ng bawat guro na siyang gagabay sa iyong pagkamulat. Naway umukit ito sa iyong isipan. Maging mapanuri, sundin ng wasto at nararapat. Kagandahang asal ang ipakita, ipadama ang pusong may malasakit. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ang boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, ikaw lagi ang bida. Sakali mang tayo'y subukin ng unos, ating haharapin ng walang takot. Sasamahan ka ni Fernan at Dino, ang bagong barkada mo. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, edukasyon mo'y sigurado na. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, boses mo ay mahalaga. Dito sa Fernandino Teens TV, edukasyon mo'y sigurado na.
Fernandino Teens TV.
Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. I am Ma'am Dolores A. Timbang, your grade 8 mathematics teacher for today. Are you familiar with the following images? How do you call them? Correct! These are what we call hinges. Hinges are used to join two parts together while allowing them to rotate relative to each other. They typically have two flat faces known as leaves. One leaf is attached to each of the parts being joined. Hinges are almost always used to attach doors and windows in buildings, vehicles, cabinets, and enclosures. Several standard types of hinges are available for these purposes. In anatomy, the word hinge is used to refer to certain joints in the human body. Specifically, the hinge joint is a type of joint that functions much like the hinge on a door, allowing bones to move in one direction, back and forth, with limited motion along other planes. The fingers, toes, elbows, knees, and ankles contain hinge joints. But when it comes to mathematics, the word hinge has much more specific meaning or definition. So, are you excited to expand it more and learn about this lesson? Great! Tune in on our episode for today entitled The Hinge Theorem and its Converse. For this lesson, you are expected to state and illustrate Hinge Theorem and its converse. Compare two triangles using the Hinge Theorem and its converse. Identify if the theorem used is the Hinge theorem or its converse. And appreciate the uses or applications of Hinge theorem and its converse in real life. Previously, we have discussed the different theorems for triangle inequality involving only one triangle. These include the exterior angle inequality theorem, triangle inequality theorem, an equal sides inequality theorem, and an equal angles inequality theorem. To recall these concepts, let us have our first activity. Identify whether each statement is a fact or a bluff. If you are watching via YouTube Live, then you may type in your answer in the comment section. If not, then you may write down your answers on a piece of paper. Question number 1. In a triangle, the sum of the lengths of any two sides is greater than the length of the third side. Correct. The answer is fact. This is based on the idea of triangle inequality theorem. Question number 2. If one side of a triangle is longer than the second, then the angle opposite the longer side is smaller than the angle opposite the second side. Great! The answer is bluff. According to the unequal sides theorem, if one side of a triangle is longer than the second, then the angle opposite the longer side is larger than the angle opposite the second side. Question number 3. If one angle of a triangle is larger than the second angle, then the side opposite the larger is shorter than the side opposite the second angle. Good job! The correct answer is bluff. If one angle of a triangle is larger than the second angle, then the side opposite the larger is longer than the side opposite the second angle as stated in the unequal angles theorem. Question number 4. In a triangle, the measure of the exterior angle is greater than any of the two remote interior angles. Very good. The answer is fact. This statement is supported by the concept of the exterior angle inequality theorem. After recalling the inequality theorems for one triangle, we will proceed to the different inequality theorems applicable for two triangles. Let us start by considering and analyzing this situation. Suppose you and your friend are walking through your classroom at the Pampanga High School and you come across a front door that you have to go through. You go first by opening the door so that the length of the opening is large enough for you to fit through it. On the other hand, your friend who is taller and larger than you goes second and has to open the door a bit wider to make the length of the opening large enough for her to fit through. When we open the door, a triangle is created. One side is the door, the other side is the floor length of the door, and the third side is the opening length. How do you relate the opening length of the door to the angle formed at the hinge of the door? Correct! The wider you open the door, the greater the hinge angle is, and the greater the opening length. This idea has great mathematical significance. It is wonderful that there is a theorem that explains this phenomenon, and it is appropriately called the Hinge Theorem. Let us say that you have a pair of triangles with two congruent sides, but a different angle between those sides. Think of it as a hinge with fixed sides that can be opened to different angles. The Hinge theorem states that if two sides of one triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, and the included angle of the first is larger than the included angle of the second, then the third side of the first triangle is longer than the third side of the second triangle. This may also be referred to as the Sas Inequality Theorem. The included angle is the angle formed by the two sides of the triangle mentioned in this theorem. The Hinge Theorem acts on the principle of the two sides described in the triangle as being hinged at their common vertex. Consider the given figures on screen. It is indicated that side AB is congruent to side DE, and side AC is congruent to side DF. Also, we can see that angle A has a measure of 50 degrees and angle D has a measure of 32 degrees. Based on this, what can we conclude about how sides BC and EF are compared? If you are thinking that the Hinge Theorem tells us that BC is longer than EF, then you are correct. This is because the two triangles have two congruent sides and the angle between those sides is larger in triangle ABC. The Hinge Theorem tells us that the triangle ABC will have a longer third side, so BC is greater than EF. Remember that the key fact in applying this theorem is that the two sides forming the angle will be of the same length in both triangles. And as the size of the angle at the hinge increases, the longer that opposite side becomes. When we come back, we are going to discuss some more examples involving the Hinge Theorem. So stay tuned, Fernandino teens!
Ang Schools Division Office City of San Fernando, Pampanga ay kaisa ng Department of Education sa pagsasagawa ng mga proyekto at programa na tumutugon sa mga pangangailangan ng mga mag-aaral. Inilunsad ang Division Call Center for Tutors and Guidance Counselors upang magbigay ng educational at psychological assistance sa mga mag-aaral, magulang at stakeholders ng division. Kaya, kung may nais kayong itanong tungkol sa pag-aaral, maaaring magpadala ng mensahe sa Division Call Center for Tutors and Guidance Counselors Facebook page o tumawag sa mga numero na makikita sa ibaba ng inyong screen tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes sa ganap na alas 8 ng umaga hanggang alas 6 ng gabi. Maaari rin kayong sumangguni sa ating guidance counselors na nagbibigay ng guidance and counseling services. Lahat ng inyong ibabahagi ay mananatiling confidential. Ang nasabing programa ay nagsisilbing daan upang malaman ang feedbacks ng stakeholders para matulungan ang ating divisyon na mapagbuti pa ang mga sumusunod na programa. Ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Tumawag na sa aming mga numero o bumisita na sa aming Facebook page at magpadala ng inyong mga katanungan.
Fernandino Teens TV.
We are back here in Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. Earlier, we just have had a presentation about the Hinge Theorem. As we continue in this lesson, we must keep in mind some important steps while using the Hinge Theorem to compare triangles. First, we identify similar sides by looking at the markings or by measuring the length of the sides. The sides with the same markings are congruent to each other. The next step is to identify the included angle of both triangles between the given sides. If the angles are the same, then SAS or side angle side postulate is used, which states that both triangles are congruent. But if angles differ, then the triangle with the larger included angle will have a longer third side. For the next example, let us consider the given figure. In this illustration, segment HP is congruent to segment HS. Also, segment HA is congruent to segment HA because of the reflexive property which states that a quantity is equal to itself. The measure of angle PHA is equal to 18 degrees and the measure of angle SHA is 35 degrees. What is the correct relation between segment AP and segment AS? Good job! Since the conditions for the Hinge theorem are satisfied, the longer side will be opposite the larger angle. So, AP is less than AS. For our last example, let us consider the given figure. It is clearly seen that side AB is congruent to side XY, and side AC is congruent to side XZ. Also, the measure of angle A is 30 degrees and the measure of angle X is 60 degrees. What relation will complete the given mathematical statement? Great! The answer is greater than. Using the Hinge theorem, you can easily tell that the triangle with the longer third side will have the larger included angle. In math, when you have a theorem, you likely have a converse theorem. Do you know what converse means? Right! The converse of a theorem happens when the conclusion and the hypothesis of a theorem are switched. For example, if you have a general theorem that says, if this, then that, then the converse theorem would say, if that, then this. At this point, we will now discuss the converse of the Hinge theorem. It states that if two sides of one triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, and the third sides are not congruent, then the larger included angle is opposite or across the longer third side. Consider the given example. It is indicated that side HJ is congruent to side LM, and side GJ is congruent to side KM. Since side HG is equal to 7 units, and side LK is equal to 5 units, so HG is greater than LK. Therefore, angle J is greater than angle M. Now, consider another two triangles as shown in the image. Is angle B or angle E larger? This time, we are given that the two triangles have two congruent sides, as indicated by the markings, and that side AC has length 7 inches and side DF has length 6 inches. We can use the converse of the Hinge theorem to conclude that angle B is greater than angle E, because angle B is opposite the longer third side. For our last example, let us consider this given figure and compare the measure of angle EGH and angle EGF. From the indicated measurements, we can say that side FG is equal or congruent to side HG, and side EG is a common side to the given triangles, and so EG is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. Since side EH with a measure of 9 units is less than side EF, which is equal to 10 units, then angle EGH is less than angle EGF by the converse of the Hinge theorem. Now, let us apply the concept of Hinge theorem and its converse in the given activity. For the following set of triangles, compare each of the given parts using either greater than, less than, or equal to symbol. Also, identify the theorem illustrated in each given. If you are watching via YouTube Live, then you may type your answer in the comment section, or you may write down your answers on a piece of paper. Are you ready? Let us begin. Item number 1. Compare the measure of angle BAC and the measure of angle DAC in the given figure and identify the theorem used. Great! The answer is greater than. Comparing the sides of triangle ABC and triangle ADC, side AB is equal to side AD. Side AC is equal to side AC, and side BC is greater than side DC. Therefore, the measure of angle BAC is greater than the measure of angle DAC by the converse of the Hinge theorem. Item number 2. Triangle ABC and triangle DEF are shown on the screen. Side AB is congruent to side DE, and side BC is congruent to side EF. Angle ABC has a measure of 54 degrees, and angle DEF has a measure of 78 degrees. Based on all this information, compare side AC and side DF. Correct. The answer is less than by the Hinge theorem. Let us proceed to item number 3. Compare side PS and side QR in the given figure. The correct answer is less than. Comparing the sides of the two triangles, triangle PQS and triangle RSQ, side PQ is congruent to side RS. Side SQ is congruent to side SQ. And angle PQS is less than angle RSQ. Therefore, side PS is less than side QR by the Hinge theorem. For the next item, let us have the subsequent given set of triangles. Item number 4. Triangle ABC and triangle DEF are shown on the screen. Side AB is congruent to side DE, and side BC is congruent to side EF. But side AC with a measure of 12 units is longer than side DF with a measure of 10 units. Using all this information, compare angle B and angle E. Good job! The answer is angle B is greater than angle E by the converse of the Hinge theorem. Item number 5. If you are given two triangles, triangle ABC and triangle XYZ with the following data. Side AB is congruent to side XY. Side AC is congruent to side XZ. Side BC is equal to 14 inches. Side YZ is equal to 9 inches. The measure of angle A is equal to 45 degrees. Choose the correct value of the measure of angle X from the values given below. 30 degrees, 50 degrees, 60 degrees, and 70 degrees. Awesome! The correct answer is 30 degrees. In this case, the length of side BC is greater than that of side YZ. Hence, the measure of angle X should be less than that of the measure of angle A. Did you get all the answers correctly? Excellent, Fernandino teens. I know you did. You will learn more about Hinge Theorem and its converse when Fernandino Teens TV Season 2 returns.
Maya po oras kaya kayo, Fernandinos. Ako pala ay Elwin Arl Serrano ng City Tourism Office ng Ciudad San Fernando. Ngayong bulan na ini, pagmasusyan tayo ng National Heritage Month, na ating temang Victory and Humanity, Upholding Filipino Heritage and Identity. Kambena nini, metong karang aktibidades na ning syudad, atin ning launching ning bayong Heritage Passport. Ning Heritage Passport, apin ning metong karing proyekto ning kaya katamong syudad, ning pamanamuna ng Mayor Edwin D. Santiago. Anong nuka rin makalagelangan ding eganagan ng heritage sites, heritage structures, naakit tamo kin kay katamong heritage district. Makakayado din kini, ding importansya da ding mapil na tradisyon, kini syudad, kalupa ning pamangawang parol, ang poing pamangalesa. May aw siyang heritage passport, uling atin kang dapat gawan, anong nukaran puntalan mula ding at tsuking passport, at saka ka mag-selfie, kay ba't kanta palto making tourism office, at mamiyalang sticker ka rin eganagan ang apuntulan mong lugar. At timong may ngari ang tutong passport. Balo mi ngeni, panahon na ini, etamo makain bisa lumal, uli na ning COVID-19 pandemic. Kaya naman kimbanwa ngayon ni, agkatan ko la ding bikers tamo, edad 18 hanggang 50, imbis na lumaot kayo po, di na nyo lang dita ka oras di kaya katamong heritage structures, kaya ni syudad. Anya naman karing mumunang 50 bikers ang makayari kaya katamong heritage passport, midinan lang premium only San Fernando loot bag. Inggawan nyo mo bakit ta makapag-register, munta kayo mismo opisina na ng City Tourism, ng munisipyo, at saka kayo magdalang metong valid ID. Kabinan kaya kayong heritage passport, ating makasipit ang instruction nung nano pa ing dapat gawan. Anya naman karing hanggang kapadyakin, nanano ko pa, tara na!
Fernandino Teens TV.
You are still tuned in to Fernandino Teens TV Season 2. Now that you have learned about the Hinge Theorem and its converse, let us proceed to the next level of our lesson. This time, we will discuss how to use these theorems and properties of triangles to write and solve an inequality to describe a restriction on the value of the variable x. Take for instance this given example. We are to write an inequality that compares side HT and side MT. In the figure, angle HAT is equal to 70 degrees, while angle MAT is equal to 65 degrees. Since HT is across the larger angle, then HT is greater than MT. Therefore, x is greater than 7. This means that the value of HT shall be greater than 7. Let us have another example. To compare the sides where the variable x is given, we just need to know the relation between the two indicated angles. From the figure, angle TIE with a measure of 135 degrees is larger than angle KIE with a measure of 95 degrees. Since TE is across the larger angle, then TE is greater than KE. The inequality statement will be 3x minus 2 is greater than 10. Solving for x, we add positive 2 on both sides of the given. So, the resulting statement will be 3x is greater than 12. Simplifying further, we divide both sides by 3 to get the value of x, which is in this case greater than 4. Considering that restriction for x, we can identify the smallest possible value of side TE. Using the number 5 as the smallest value that satisfies the inequality, by substitution, we will have 3 times 5, which is equal to 15. Then, subtract 2 to the product, which will give us 13. So, side TE shall measure at least 13. So far, we have illustrated examples applying the concept of Hinge Theorem. For the next given set, we will utilize the converse of this theorem in writing and finding a range of possible values for x. Let us consider this figure. This time, the measure of the third side of the two triangles are given. The longer third side has a measure of 50 feet, while the smaller third side has a measure of 40 feet. Using the idea of the converse of the Hinge theorem, the larger angle is across the longer side. So, setting up the inequality, we have 2x plus 10 is greater than 70. Solving for the inequality, we subtract 10 from both sides of the given, so that will result to 2x is greater than 60. Simplifying further, we divide both sides by 2 to get the value of x, which is greater than 30 degrees. However, this is a triangle, and triangles are still and will always be restricted with how many degrees their angles can be. Since we know that x is greater than 30, it is going to top out at 180 degrees. So with this, we also must consider that 2x plus 10 must be less than 180 if the inequality is greater than or the angle given is the larger angle. Solving for this inequality, we subtract 10 from both sides of the given, so we will have 2x is less than 170. Dividing both sides by 2 will result to x is less than 85 degrees. Now, we can represent the possible values of x by splicing it in between the two given values. That is, x is greater than 30 degrees but less than 85 degrees. Let us look at another example. We will be using the same figure that I have presented earlier, but this time with different measurements for the third side. In this case, if we are to compare the two given angles, the larger one is opposite the longer side, which has a measure of 60 feet. Setting up the inequality, we will have 2x plus 10 is less than 70. Solving further, we subtract 10 from both sides to get 2x, which is less than 60, and dividing both sides by 2 will result to x is less than 30, as opposed to before where it is greater than because it is a smaller angle this time. Since it is the smaller angle, it cannot be bigger than 180, but we must recognize that this is still a triangle, and triangles max out at 180 degrees, but no angle inside of the triangle can be negative or, more importantly, 0. So instead of saying it must be less than 180, we have to say it must be greater than 0 this time. Solving for this inequality, we subtract 10 from both sides, and that will result to 2x is greater than negative 10. Dividing both sides by 2, the resulting statement will be x is greater than negative 5. So, the value of x is greater than negative 5 but less than 30. Take note that even though we have negative possible values for x, keep in mind that the measure for sides or angles should always be positive and greater than 0. At this point, we will do the next activity to apply our knowledge on the Hinge theorem and its converse, and the different properties of triangles to write and solve an inequality that will describe a restriction on the value of x. Let us start. Item number 1. Right, the answer is x is greater than 4. Comparing the two sides with respect to the given angle measurement, the larger angle, which is 126 degrees, is across the longer side. And so, 3x minus 8 is greater than x. Item number 2. Great! The answer is x is greater than 5. From the initial inequality statement, 2x minus 1 is greater than x plus 4. Item number 3. Correct! The answer is x is greater than negative 3 but less than 30 degrees by the converse of the Hinge Theorem. This is from the initial inequality statements 2x plus 6 is less than 66 and 2x plus 6 is greater than 0. The primary application of the Hinge Theorem is studying triangle inequalities. Can you think of some ways on how you can apply Hinge Theorem and its converse in daily situations? Let us explore some real-life examples on how we can use these concepts. Consider an example of a crane with a beam that can be moved at different angles. Now, suppose two cranes are equal in length and the length of their beam is also the same. The length between the top of the beam and the roof of the crane will depend upon the angle created by the beam. In this example, the angle made by the beams of the cranes is 75 degrees and 25 degrees respectively. We can see from the figure that the distance between the top of the beam and the top of the crane is larger for the crane with the angle of 75 degrees. The Hinge Theorem can be helpful in a situation where you are trying to tell the difference in distance you traveled compared to another distance. Let us look at this next example. John and John are hikers. They start at the visitor center and walk in opposite directions for 2 miles. Then, John turns to her right at an angle of 20 degrees and John turns to his right at an angle of 30 degrees. They each continue hiking for another 1.5 miles when both stop to rest. Who do you think is further from the visitor center? We will answer this question when Fernandino Teens TV Season 2 returns.
Hindi lamang sa larangan ng pangkabuhayan apektado ang maraming pamilyang Pilipino, kundi maging sa larangan ng pagkatuto ng bawat batang Pilipino. Inilunsad ng siyudad ng San Fernando ang programa Nurturing Environment and System for Thriving or NEST, isang education community pantry na naglalayon para sa isang malawakang pagtulong, pagtantabay at paggabay na ang focus ay ang makapagbigay ng tulong at suporta sa ating mga mag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng educational needs gaya na lamang ng school supplies, tutorial sessions, study tips, at iba pang mga pamamaraan na mas lalong makatutulong sa pag-angat ng ating edukasyon. Dahil hindi hadlang ang pandemya sa magandang kinabukasang naghihintay sa ating mga mag-aaral. Sino-sino nga ba ang mga kalahok sa programang ito? Sa pagtutulungan ng ating school administrators, guro, magulang, at iba pang mga miyembro ng ating komunidad gaya ng barangay officials at sangguniang kabataan ay siguradong magiging mas matagumpay ang programang ito. Paano nga ba ang magiging proseso ng naturang programa? Una, magkakaroon tayo ng isang Facebook group, ang Pampanga High School NEST Education Community Pantry na pangungunahan ng Educational Pantry Coordinator. Ang mga magulang, tagapangalaga at mga guro ay ia-add ng ating Educational Pantry members sa Facebook group na ito. Sa page na ito, maaaring i-post ng mga magulang at tagapangalaga o sino mang miyembro ng educational pantry ang kanilang mga kahilingan o requests. Kailangan ding ilagay ang pangalan ng mag-aaral, grade, at section para sa mas agarang aksyon. Oo nga pala, hindi lang requests ang pwedeng i-post. Pwede ring mag-post ang mga nais magbigay ng tulong o mga gustong mag-donate. Sabi nga nila, sharing is caring. Tandaan na ang Facebook group na ito ay pribado at posts na may kaugnayan lamang sa page na ito ang maaaprobahan. Mayroon din palang Google Form na ipamamahagi kung saan maaari nating isumite ang ating requests o kahilingan. Paano naman ang mga walang internet access sa bahay? Huwag mangamba dahil merong mga nakalaang drop boxes ang ating paaralan na kung saan maaaring ihulog ng mga magulang at tagapangalaga ang kanilang requests. Sa mga nais namang mag-donate ng school supplies, maaaring ilagay ang mga ito sa tabi ng drop boxes. Maaari ring mag-donate ng mga kagamitan o cash donation kaakibat ang pagsusumite ng deed of donation form. Pangalawa, mahalaga ang ugnayan ng mga guro at ng mga magulang o tagapangalaga sa programang ito. Gamit ang video calls o chats ay ipahahayag ng mga guro ang adhikain ng programang ito sa mga magulang o tagapangalaga. Maaari ring gawin ang orientation na ito ng face-to-face kasabay ng schedule ng kuhanan ng mga module. Gaya ng nabanggit, hindi lamang mga bagay ang maaaring i-donate. Pwede ring mag-conduct ng tutorial session, study tips, at iba pang mga kagamitan sa pagkatuto gaya ng mga aklat o kaya ay gadgets. Ikatlo, ang requested needs ng ating mga magulang o tagapangalaga ay ililista ng ating NEST focal person. Ang mga coordinator naman ang mag-aayos ng mga ito. Ang advisors ng ating mga mag-aaral, guidance counselor, at iba pang mga guro ay ipaaalam sa ating mga magulang at tagapangalaga ang petsa at oras ng pamimigay ng requested needs na gaganapin sa paaralan. Sabi nga nila, it takes a village to raise a child. Kaya naman aktibo at iba yung pakikilahok ang inaasahan sa pagsasanib puwersa ng paaralan at barangay na siyang tutukoy sa pangangailangan ng bawat Fernandinong mag-aaral at kikilos upang matugunan ito sa tulong at suporta rin ng mga miyembro ng komunidad. Isang malawakang komunidad para sa isang produktibong educational community pantry ay tiyak na lilikha ng iba yung pagkilos upang maging mas magaan at madali ang pagkatuto ng bawat kabataang Fernandino. Kaya naman tandaan, magbigay ayon sa kakayahan, kumuha ayon sa pangangailangan.
Fernandino Teens TV.
You are still with us at Fernandina Teens TV Season 2. Before the break, I have given you a problem in which we try to tell the difference in distance traveled by two people. To answer this question, first, we draw the segments from each person's final position to the visitor center and find the supplementary angles formed by their turning angles. Then, you have two triangles, triangle ACB and triangle BDV. Side CV is congruent to side DV, and side AC is congruent to side BD. Since the measure of angle ACV is greater than the measure of angle BDV, it follows from the Hinge Theorem that AV is greater than BV. So, John is farther from the visitor center. Let us have another real-life problem involving the Hinge Theorem. Two groups of bikers leave the same camp heading in opposite directions. Each group travels 2 miles, then changes direction and travels 1.2 miles. Group A starts due east and then turns 45 degrees toward north. Group B starts due west and then turns 30 degrees toward south. Which group is further from camp? Draw a diagram that represents the situation and mark the given measures. The distances that the group bike and the distances back to camp form 2 triangles. The triangles have 2 congruent side lengths of 2 miles and 1.2 miles. Include the third side of each triangle in the diagram. Use linear pairs to find the included angles for the paths that the groups take. For Group A, it's 180 degrees minus 45 degrees, which is equal to 135 degrees. For Group B, we have 180 degrees minus 30 degrees, which is equal to 150 degrees. Since 150 degrees is greater than 135 degrees, the distance Group B is from camp is greater than the distance Group A is from camp by the Hinge Theorem. So, Group B is further from camp. After learning all the concepts on Hinge Theorem and its converse, you are ready to take on our challenge. For each given question, you may write your answer on the comment box if you are watching via YouTube Live. If not, then you may write them on a piece of paper. You will be given 5 seconds to answer each item. Are you ready, Fernandino teens? Item number 1. Given the diagram at the right, what can be concluded regarding side AB and side AC? A. AB is greater than AC. B. AB is less than AC. Or C. AB is equal to AC. Great! The answer is letter B. AB is less than AC. Item number 2. Given the next set of triangles, what can be concluded regarding the measure of angle U and the measure of angle E? A. The measure of angle U is greater than the measure of angle E. B. The measure of angle U is less than the measure of angle E. Or C. The measure of angle U is equal to the measure of angle E. Good job! The correct answer is letter A. The measure of angle U is greater than the measure of angle E. Item number 3. Given the diagram at the right, which of the following inequalities describes the possible values for x? A. X is greater than 16. B. X is less than 16. Or C. X is equal to 16. Right! The answer is letter A. X is greater than 16. Item number 4. Based on the given diagram, which car is further away from the mall? Is it car A or car B? Awesome! Car B is further away from the mall. Item number 5. Curl and Kyle play with the roller skates at the town oval. From the center of the oval, Curl skates 4 meters east and then 5 meters south. On the other hand, Kyle skates 5 meters west. Then, he takes a right turn of 70 degrees and skates 4 meters. Who is further from the center of the oval? Is it curl or Kyle? Fantastic! Kyle is farther from the center of the oval. Well done, Fernandino teens! The Hinge Theorem and converse of the Hinge Theorem have so many applications in real life. For example, these are being used by civil engineers during their surveying of lands, where they try to figure out the estimated length of certain areas. These theorems are specifically used to tell the proximity of objects or items if they are forming a triangular shape. Did you learn something today? Great! Here are the references used in this episode. As I end my presentation today, allow me to share with you this simple thought from Ralph W. Sackman. The larger the island of knowledge, the longer the shoreline of wonder. This adage may mean a lot as we relate it to our lives. Again, this has been your virtual math teacher for today, Teacher Dolores A. Timbang. Thank you for watching and listening, and may God bless each one of us.